Hi, I'm Al Goff.
And I'm Miles Miller.
Hi, this is John Schneider.
Hi, it's John Glover.
This is Justin Hartley.
This is Steve DeKnight.
This is Aaron Ashmore.
This is Cassidy Freeman, and you are listening to Starkville.
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 Starkville, House of L.
Starkville, House of L.
Starkville, House of L.
The podcast.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Starkville, House of L. I'm Steve.
And I'm Derek, and this is our episode for the Smallville Season 2 episodes, Calling and Exodus. And we are joined by a special guest today. You may know him. You probably know him. Let's go ahead and assume that you know him. Mr. Craig Byrne of KryptonSite.com and KSiteTV.com. Craig, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on again. It's fun to join you again.
Longtime friend of the show. Longtime friend.
Yeah.
Earliest memories of Smallville include you and, of course, visiting Krypton Site. And when talking to you weeks ago about what episodes you would love to do, you mentioned these, and I was so glad that you did, because my memory of refreshing and refreshing Krypton Site, specifically during the week between these two episodes.
Oh, wow.
Once that Williams theme hits at the end of Calling, I was like, KryptonSite.com. Not that it wasn't, and I'll tell you this, and I have no shame in telling you this, I'm pretty sure, of course this was pre-Shoe, we didn't come along till 2005, I'm pretty sure Krypton Site was my homepage. Like, open the browser was the homepage that I went to every morning.
I miss that. I feel like now people just look on social media to see if somebody updated.
Yeah.
And with all the algorithms and stuff, it all just sometimes gets lost.
No, that's true.
It's unfortunate because I had so much fun doing that stuff. And, you know, like, I have specific memories of the time leading to this finale, too. And I think that's, you know, we all have different experiences with this show, but I love that we're still talking about it 20 years later.
Absolutely.
Craig, it's interesting, Craig, that you say we all have different experiences with this show, but you are, for many fans, longtime fans of Smallville, you know, who were there from the beginning, your work is at the center of a lot of that. And I'm not saying that to blow smoke, but I mean, like, Krypton Site was, I'm not like, I didn't know how to set a homepage to something, but Krypton Site was definitely my first. As soon as I launched the internet, I would go to Krypton Site, because I don't know that there's ever been another television show since this one that I was so invested in week to week. And what you brought to the table you were always right there with the preview pictures that had been released. You were there with the synopses as soon as they released episode titles, spoilers if you wanted them, and to be able to go to that site and get all the news and see what was going on with this show that I was obsessed with was huge. And then, then Shoe comes along and all these other things come along, and you start to realize that going to Krypton Site in those early days, especially in the early days of Smallville, was a common occurrence for all of us. You know, we all did that. And so you're one of those, you're kind of a linchpin of fandom in a lot of ways for that. And so it's always cool when I get to be on with you or interact with you, because, you know, you're Smallville royalty in my eyes. Forget those Talkville guys.
I will blow smoke, because I've said it before on the show, though. Steve and I have said there wouldn't have been a Starkville's House of L if there wasn't a Krypton Site, because at some point in the middle of the night, probably inebriated, when I should have been studying for class, Tucker and I were like, look, if we're going to spend this much time on this website, we need to be we're wasting time. We should be doing something too, something fun. So, in a huge way, Krypton Site influenced House of L.
Well, stick around for spoilers, where did you get your spoilers from that we were sticking around for?
Every episode. That was something we loved doing. We weren't going to talk about spoilers in the episode. We were going to wait. We'd play out the outro music and then come back and, and tell the listener, pull up Krypton Site and look with us while we're looking at spoilers. Now we'll let Craig talk, since we waxed eloquently for 10 minutes.
Well, I appreciate that. You're going to give me an inflated ego. But thank you for that. I think, it's kind of weird because I don't think such a thing could exist in the same way now.
No.
Like, I cover Superman and Lois. Even though I've interviewed most of the cast, most of them probably don't even know my name. You know, like Smallville, it was like, I was very fortunate with this Smallville stuff that they included me in on stuff. You know, like I got to go to the producers' season premiere parties and stuff like that. And they trusted I would not put on my Chloe Sullivan hat and try to get, scoop while I'm there. You know, like I just turned my reporter hat off at those things.
Yeah.
But, but also I feel like fans of TV shows today have their hands held through everything. Like there's always a billion interviews. When an episode is over, you have producer explains that final scene type articles. And I mean, I'm guilty of writing those articles as well because, I'm not going to turn down an interview. But like, I mean, when we were doing Smallville and Krypton site, I think Alan Miles only did like 4 interviews a year, and my site was one of them.
I get so tired now whenever I pull up YouTube and it's like ending explained for, X film, and I'm like, that didn't need what media literacy do you lack that you did not understand the ending?
Yeah, it's not like
To the Land Before Time.
Exactly. Finally, ending explained, Casablanca.
God, it took years, but we finally got there.
Finally cracked the code. Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it can be so sensationalized, or, I know there's some like YouTubers especially who will just pick up on a rumor and run with it as if it's true.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I'm so glad the whole "we got this covered" era is over, it seems, where they would just like make up stories every day and people would share them.
But then, of course, I know what Twitter/X has turned into now, and now it's just a multitude of people who pay for the check mark and are quote unquote scoopers and will say anything for click engagement that gets them paid because they pay for the check mark. So if they get a high enough follower rate and enough clicks that they're getting money off of that, and they could make up anything. They could say Robert Downey Jr. is going to play Victor Von Doom, and it's like all this.
That sounds
wait, what?
stupid.
That's a thing. That's a thing that's happening. Sorry,
but I feel like. Sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit about the making stuff up. I mean, people can make stuff up that ends up becoming true. Like,
Absolutely.
I mean, look at the Krypton site April Fools. Seemed like every year at least one of them ended up happening eventually.
and you shot for the fences on most of those, so that just speaks to your.
I think my favorite one was Goff and Miller create Young Aquaman series. I was like, this is the most ridiculous thing I can think of.
As far-fetched as you can get. And then and then Alan Miles are reading Krypton site one day and they're like, hey, what if wait a minute.
Ian Somerhalder is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And they end up being Adam Knight the next season.
Steve, I texted you this morning because when we watch these episodes or when we record, I try to watch them right before going in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
Of course, I've watched them however many times before. In this instant, a lot. These are two I've watched a lot over the years because I loved them so much back in the day. It's one of my favorite two-parters. But I told you, I think I texted, man, these are 2 great episodes.
Yep.
And then the minute Craig got on Zoom, just like a few seconds before you did, he was like, these are 2 really good episodes.
Yeah.
I was like,
They are.
They really are.
I think they're 2 of the best of the series. And that, when you texted me that was kind of my response, 2 of the best of the series. And I think that these 2 episodes are responsible for, even more so than the season 1 finale, I think these are responsible for what was expected in the years to come with the various finales to the each seasons, because it seems to just get bigger and bigger and bigger as you go from year to year with the season finales. Whether it's, I think season 3's finale for a lot of people is kind of the pinnacle of what a season finale of something should be. It's the most soap opera-y thing. You got people being poisoned, houses being exploded, naked Clark just somewhere in the void. Season 4 gets more into the Superman lore. And I said at the end of the season 5 finale, I looked at my friends that I was watching with at the time. I said, this isn't a Clark Kent show anymore. This is a Superman show. But I think it all comes back to this two-parter, this 1-2 punch of everything that happens in these two episodes. It really, I think, set the tone for what Alan Miles would do and then the subsequent showrunners would do to say, if we can nail a finale, if we can nail a premiere, then we'll be golden. And they did, I think, every time. And I think this really begins that process.
Outside of the finale premieres, there's not a whole lot of to be continueds on the show. There's a handful. Right. This being one of them, and I think a lot of people forget. Not only is this is calling a to be continued into Exodus to be continued into Exile, and then Exile is also a to be continued into Phoenix. So it's really a little 4-part arc in and of itself. What, Steve, and then I want to ask Craig specifically, because you may have known things going into it. I can just remember where I was and what I was doing that night, and then we'll get into the episodes proper. But what are your memories, Glosson, of I don't know why I called you Glosson, but anyway.
It's fine. It's fine. That's my last name. That's why you call me that.
What are your memories, Big Honkin', of...
Well, I think going back to Rosetta, like, to me, the whole season 2 stuff was just like, it's all a blur, really. And it was in that year. It's like, oh, wow, they had Christopher Reeve and they played the Superman music. I wonder if that's going to come back around. And here comes these finales, this 2-part, really it's a 2-part finale.
Right.
And, and really you could watch Rosetta and then turn around and watch this. And you've got, because you've got the whole Walden situation going on with the key and all that stuff. And now he's waking up and all this other junk that goes on. I'm like you. That music hits at the end of Calling, and I'm like, oh, let's just be next week right now. Like, I was so impatient. Like, it was appointment television. I was there. I was at rapt attention, and I was absolutely ready for whatever I was going to get. And the day is coming. The day is coming. Like, if this had aired in 2020, in the 2020s, if this had aired in modern day, the day is coming would be the new "This is the way" or "I have spoken." The same thing that happened to like the Mandalorian that goes on. That's what. Well, the day is coming, everybody. The day is coming, and it was just. There's so much about this I just love the stuff with Lex and Helen, the stuff with Walden and his hand blasting and all that good stuff. But I remember, I was at rapt attention, just ready to roll. There was nothing getting in my way this night.
Tucker and I often watch together. For whatever reason, I remember we didn't for Calling. I think we did for Exodus. That I honestly don't know, but I remember vividly we didn't, because this was the day. This is the day. The day is coming. I forgot that you just said it would be the slogan, and I already forgot what it was. The day is coming. Hashtag the day is coming. This was the time of cell phone minutes and limited texting. You had like 100 texts, a month or whatever. It wasn't like today where we could have a 45-minute conversation through text. And I remember like that, the Williams, him going down into the cellar, hearing Terrence Stamp's voice, going down in the cellar, and the theme. And like having nobody to talk to. I was like, I have to find somebody right now to talk to about this. What were your interpretations back then, Craig? Can you put your 2-decade-old hat on and remember going into these 2 episodes?
Well, I just wanted to go back to what you just said about the texting. I never texted much on my phone, but I remember I was on the East Coast when the season 3 finale aired. And fortunately, I'd been spoiled, so I knew it was coming. But I got so many texts that night. Is Chloe dead? Is this happening? Is that happening? And it was just like, that was like the first time I really remember people texting about TV. I think maybe by that time it wasn't on a metered plan or something. Yeah. But one thing I specifically remember is I moved to LA in 2002. So that was like a year before this. And I remember I was by the Rite Aid at the corner of Fairfax and Sunset when I got a phone call from somebody from Smallville. This was like a month before it aired, and he's like, Terrence Stamp is going to be the voice of Zod. And I'm just like, holy shit.
Of Zod? They said Zod.
Oh, not Zod.
Jor-El.
Jor-El. Wow.
Well, that's funny because, at the time, especially as he got more antagonistic, everybody was like, is it Brainiac? Is it Zod? Is it somebody pretending to be? And I remember getting real into the weeds with this because we were like, is Walden the Eradicator? And, all this kind of stuff. Like, we were like, how much are we
he did say Jor-El. I think I was just thinking about Superman 2.
Right.
That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
But I can remember...
so I was, like, super pumped, but I think I ended up posting it.
Oh, no.
And now, like, that's the other thing that's so different about, like, fandom and the internet and that sort of thing. Now everything has to be cleared with publicity before you post. I think it changed around the time they moved to the CW, actually. But like back then, 95% of the time, Alan Miles were cool with anything that was posted because they figured the internet was just a small portion of their audience.
Well, I
remember that. I also just remember after the episode, just my mind was racing. Like, what's going to happen? Clark's gone off, left Lana behind. You had, Lex and Helen. What's going to happen there? And then finally, like the Chloe and Lionel thing. I really like. One thing I was thinking about when I was rewatching these episodes last week is like, I really wish they had built on that a lot more.
Yeah.
Because Chloe as a villain would have been good because, gosh, I didn't remember her doing that jealous face all the time in this episode. Like,
She does.
Yeah, she does quite a bit. And it's just like watching it now, I'm like, why are they so worried about who's going to tell Chloe? I mean, Clark's been in love with Lana since he was like 5. You know what I mean? Like, this is not news.
No. Also, you walked in his barn. So this is kind of on you.
Right. Wow. What did you expect? There'd just be no one there?
What were you looking for? This is also... I love Calling because historically, not great penultimate episodes for Smallville ahead of the finale. Another 1-2 punch I love from a penultimate finale is... Oracle and Vessel from season 5. That's another fantastic one, a two-parter in my opinion. But Calling, 22nd episode of season 2, 43rd episode overall. It was written by Kenneth Biller and directed by Terrence O'Hara. Aired May 13th, 2003, over 21 years ago, which is crazy to even think about. This is also one where it's rare that we get a cold open that doesn't have some nefarious or villain-centric opening. It's got the iconic... I say iconic because I feel like Steve says this to me a lot when it comes... when my birthday comes around, he always sends me like the Lana quote, maybe somebody...
We remember the day you came to us?
Yeah, maybe people just want to celebrate the day you came into our lives or whatever. But
and
yes,
then we kiss.
And then we... I don't remember that
the original hysteric.
That's the original.
That's right. You better believe
it. You're damn right.
And don't you forget it.
This is the wedding centric episode, though. However, because we do have Lex and Helen's episode building, despite the fact that Helen has been MIA for the last several episodes, and Lex seems to have been planning this all on his own. He asks Jonathan Martha to be his family, represent his family at the wedding because his own dad won't be there. Clark is, of course, his best man. He's been grueling over the best man speech that he has to give at the wedding. In the midst of all this, Helen's office has been broken into, and the only thing that seems to be missing is Clark's vial of blood that becomes quite the MacGuffin in the second half of this season, and honestly rears its head a few more times, season 3, and then again course, not this exact file because it gets shattered in either, I guess it was Phoenix in season 3 when Clark or Jonathan throws it in the barn and shatters it, but Clark gets more blood when Morgan Edge shows up, cuts himself with kryptonite, and then that, if I'm not mistaken, that sample of blood is what ends up leading to Connor.
Wow.
Toward the end of the series, I believe gets referenced again. I don't quote.
I think you're right.
Don't quote me on that. But of course, we find out that it was not hooligans that broke into the hospital looking to get their kicks. It was Lex himself after the blood sample, and he does come clean to Helen about taking it, but Helen leaves him as a result,
and rightfully so.
Yeah,
like at that point, it's like I'm out. I'm outie 3000, Lex, and you think, okay, so this is how this is going to end. I think this is just a great swerve in that moment of her leaving on the parts of the writers and on the parts of this particular show, because Lex isn't married to some woman named Helen,
Yeah.
And so the fact that it's like, okay, great, this is going to and it could have been a thing that drove him further down, but man, it gets so twisted and I love it so much.
It does.
Well, I think it's interesting because I feel like in season 1, the Victoria character was kind of a fail for potential love interest.
Yeah.
But I felt Emmanuel Vaugier could really stand up to Michael. As far as actors, they had good chemistry, and I really regret that somehow they didn't find a way to bring her back in later seasons.
I mean, to me, it's easy money that Lex dies at the end of, quote unquote, dies at the end of 7, and then she shows up at the beginning of 8 to challenge Tess.
Mm-hmm. He also had a brother that we never saw again after Prodigal.
Right.
Yeah.
What a way to bring her back in, because come the end of Phoenix, does she even make it to Phoenix, or is it the end of Exile? No, it's the end of Phoenix, because Lex doesn't come back till Phoenix. That she, the same. I remember watching that night. Of course, we're not there yet, but I remember them on the plane again. I'm like, we're going to do this all over again. We're going to do the same thing we just did. And of course, she bails out of the plane, never to be heard from again after shooting the pilot of the plane that time. So, what have you. In the midst of all this, Dr. Walden has woken up from his coma after getting, was that Rosetta, where he gets downloaded and comatose from the caves, the good old Kawachi caves. Lionel has, of course, taken ownership or administratorship or conservatorship, I forget what the exact term is, over the caves from Lex because of all the... there's been some deaths. There's been some not great things going on. Dr. Walden included ended up in a coma. So the governor has given control over to Lionel. But I think in the midst of all this, we've got Clark and Lana finally, I guess for the Klana lovers out there, getting together after 2 years of will they, won't they. But don't worry, you'll have several more seasons of will they, won't they before that falls apart. And then of course, as Craig mentioned, the whole Chloe thing, finding out about the two of them, and thus beginning her journey to the dark side, which is really, if you had, and I know people loved Chloe, but this was the one where this is where I began to be like, no. I mean, she screwed him over a few times before this, and then this one's really just how do you consider her a friend after?
But
after
there's an exit sign over Noah's head.
There's the exit sign.
I'm kidding, by the way.
All the tales were there that she would be Chloe. I mean, that she would be Lois, but alas, television without pity, you were wrong, for she will never be. I'm sorry, I just triggered Steve.
I still think if I'm ever in a bad mood, I like to listen to Shoes Hex podcast. That's highly recommended. In the season finale,
there was
Chloe
something in the water that night.
That was such a good episode.
Now, was that this is dumb, I'm dumb?
No, that was after we used the fortress design.
Oh, that's right.
The Hex episode is where we actually did a reading from Craig's book, or you did a reading.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
On how.
And then Al Goff says, Chloe will not become Lois Lane.
We were,
and then the news of the last 5 years came out, and they're just like, we dodged a bullet there.
We were on one that night. I do like Calling as well because it's you talked about the swerve there, Steve. I like the subversion because this one ends. You think it's going to end on the normal WB moment, the kiss in the loft, Chloe finding them, crying, and turning around and walk off. And it for any other episode, for any other show, that's where this episode would have ended. It would have come up and said executive producer, faded to black, and that's where the music would have faded out. But because we've got bigger fish to fry, this is where the kiss ends, Lana leaves, and then we hear the voice of Jor-El. Now, my memory, and I don't know where I saw this. Tim was talking to me about this the other day, and I think it was an interview Alan Miles did a while back, is that at one point they were discussing Hackman for the role of Jor-El. Does anybody else remember this?
I don't remember it, but I believe you.
He pulled a quote for me, and let me see if I can find it really quick. It was something about the... Well, it was at one point he was going to. They had talked about him being the voice of Jor-El because that was going to be cheaper because he didn't have to appear. But then at one point also that we would find out that Lionel didn't kill his dad and that he was going to be Lex's grandfather. But Al says in 2007 at the L.A. Comic Book and Science Fiction Convention that. We approached it, and his day rate was so astronomical that we couldn't even touch it.
That's what I often heard about why Justin Hartley was never on Arrow as a guest star.
Oh, really?
He just was charging so much, I think, even before This Is Us happened.
I think that would have been weird, though.
Well, they had a concept that I thought was, kind of silly.
Okay.
Originally, the thought was that they were going to make a movie about Oliver Queen, and Oliver Queen would be played by Justin, which would have been slightly funny, but at the same time, and then they got into this multiverse stuff anyway, so.
Interesting.
But I also still wish that the Crisis crossover had used archive footage from the Aquaman pilot and just had Justin as Aquaman.
That would have been hilarious. That would have been fantastic.
I'll take that a step further. If they really wanted to do the Flash movie right, they should have had some of that pilot footage, some of that archive footage from the Aquaman pilot.
Or, maybe some other Flashes.
Yeah.
Like where John Wesley Shipp, Grant Gustin, Kyle Gallner, any of them.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, you had Ezra Miller appear in Flash in that one Crisis episode.
Yeah, can we see it from that perspective?
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Because if memory serves, they were already filming at that point anyway. The troubled production of that film, but in more ways than
maybe
one.
not, because he didn't have his costume from the movie.
Could be. I can't remember.
Are there lines that that Nuclear Man says in Superman 4 that could be used? Because that's in my mind when I try to imagine Gene Hackman saying "Kal-El, it is time," it just comes out as Nuclear Man.
I hear you. Nuclear Man would have been a very much cheaper voice of Jor-El.
I wonder how he felt in the booth those days doing those lines.
Well, because that was Gene Hackman's
yeah, it was
voice.
him dubbing it over. Yeah, I know.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
Yeah. He did. That's because
I think I just outed myself as having only seen about 25 minutes of Superman 4 before turning it off.
You've done yourself a great disservice, Craig Byrne.
That's sad.
Sorry.
I love Superman
failed
4.
the city.
I love Superman 4 so much.
Superman 3 is my favorite, quote-unquote, bad Superman movie. I mean, Annette's in it.
Yeah, I love Superman. I love both.
Superman 3 is great.
There's not a bad Christopher Reeve Superman movie.
Yeah, we don't discuss the one from like, was it 2015?
As far as I'm concerned. And we'll just leave it at that and keep going. So, yes, this one ends. Does anybody remember? I mean, I forgot to go back and look. Is Terrence Stamp listed in the opening as a guest of Calling?
I don't know about Calling, but I believe he definitely was for Exodus. Because it was like special guest star.
I remember that now. I mean, that's a hard voice to not call. Like, I can remember that night going, is that Zod? Is that...
But no, I don't remember being surprised that Terrence Stamp's voice was Jarrell.
We probably saw it on Krypton side.
That's what I was saying. You mentioned earlier,
it.
Yeah, Craig, you mentioned earlier that you'd already put it out there for.
Yeah.
So I remember just being excited that it was Terrence Stamp, and I never entertained the fact that it may be Zod. I didn't have anyone that I was watching this with, and I didn't really frequent any forums or anything. So it was literally just the news from Krypton site, and then my own mind just like, this is amazing. I love how they've casted Zod to be Jarrell. That's so amazing, And it wasn't until
casted isn't a word.
I'm sorry that they casted.
Get it right.
That they casted.
Yeah.
Zod is Jarrell, and I never thought about that might actually be Zod. You can work it out in post.
I got it. No, you're good. I did frequent the Krypton site forums. I was not a poster, but I was on them a lot. I read and
he was always in the slowest.
Yeah, and I read. You know me. You know how I roll. 20 years ago. I just remember reading a lot, and I remember disagreeing with more than I agreed 9 times out of 10 with most things, with most people's posts. But that was where I in subsequent seasons, especially throughout 3 and 4, of people being like, I think this is actually Zod, or I think this is actually Brainiac. I don't think this is actually Jor-El. He wouldn't talk to him like this, because it was a big talking point at the time, whether you were in the forums or not, of how non-Jor-El this AI seemed, this entity of Jor-El seemed, and they kind of retconned that in a way in season 9, once we meet Julian Sands' version of the character, the late Julian Sands, and how. I think of the episode where Clark and Lois are at the fortress, and he sees first time he actually sees the hologram of his parents.
I think that was season 10, Abandoned, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was. Nine's when we're introduced to Julian, but 10.
Yes.
10 when we see the two of them together, and the hologram of Helen Slater as Laura, and he talked, and that Jor-El says how I'm sending this so you'll never be alone. But I'm sending all of my knowledge and none of myself, like that. So that's why he does seem so cold in the beginning. But later, I mean, he does he as the series progresses, he praises Clark. He talks about how proud he is of Clark. So it is kind of a growing. And
then sometimes he says, "You will conquer them."
Yeah, and then sometimes we get terms like "you will rule."
Well, the first thing was rule them well. That's what he reads in the ship, is rule them well. And I always chalk it up to something lost in translation between the Kryptonian and the English,
sure.
Because and then when you get this version of Jor-El, like, hey, you're coming to me, you're going to do what I tell you to do. I will now brand you. As he does at the beginning there of Exodus, and it's just like, well, dang, Jor-El.
Don't give Chloe any ideas.
And my whole take on it. Wow, you can't keep going after that one. That's
good night, everybody.
I mean, I want to say well played, but at the same time, I'm gonna be like.
You're just mad you didn't think of it.
Yeah, I am. That's really what it comes down to. But I just remember thinking, I wonder if it's just because it's the ship and it's all the ship is able to do. Maybe and then once the fortress was a thing, I was just always thinking there's more to be added to this. I guess But I never thought it might. And I mean, it makes sense that it's not Jor-El. You know, if that theory was out there, like to me, that's a theory I could be like, okay, I can go with that. Obviously, now we know it was, but you know, still the idea never crossed my mind that this is not Jor-El. I just said, oh, this is their take on Jor-El.
Well, and we have to assume that Jor-El, things changed, obviously. I mean, you know, if the whole come to me, son of Jor-El, if the whole come to me Kal-El thing is him trying to prepare him for his legacy, what his role on Earth is going to be, ultimately a season later we get Kal-El. He's Kal now at the end of this one because he's put on the red kryptonite ring. But you know, when he at the end of Covenant and into Crusade, when he does fly and he does begin to unite the stones. But as far as actual your training with me and all that begins, that we get a glimpse of it in the opening moments of Arrival of 501. He doesn't actually come back and start doing this until season 9, between seasons 8 and 9, when he turns his back on humanity and fully embraces his Kryptonian side. And does the whole training. But you know, I think of the after the construction of the fortress, seeing those glimpses from the destruction of Krypton, from Superman the movie, and all the elders falling and all the red and everything. Like so it takes a long time to ever get to what he's talking about at the end of this 2-part episode or episodes.
One thing that kind of fascinates me is thinking about the notion that when they did these episodes, they probably thought they were 2/5 of the way through the show.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, I feel like maybe they would have stretched it out a little more. I know they've talked about how they probably would not have killed Jonathan in season 5 if they had known they were going to get to 10 seasons. So, you know. Or, I mean, killing Lionel and then getting 3 more seasons.
Yeah. And then
Lex leaving and getting 3 more seasons. You know?
Yeah, though in that case, I think they thought they were going to get Michael to sign up for more.
Yeah,
but I mean, who would have thought?
I mean, they tried.
No Lex or Lana.
Yeah, and they tried so hard in season 10 to bring him back throughout, and not just the finale.
Yeah,
there were so many instances, and I remember there too talking about Hackman. You know, if they could bring him in as a clone. As the Elder clone
with their season 10 budget, really?
Yeah, with their season 10 budget. If they couldn't do it in season 2,
well, they didn't know about Hackman's day rate. This was 2 generations removed.
Yeah, nobody was still involved at that point.
Oh my gosh, it's funny.
Just Brian and Kelly, they were the only ones. And then we get into the next episode, which is a fantastic season finale, Exodus. Which aired. I could not believe we had to wait a week between these episodes. My God. May 20th, 2003. You know,
if that had happened now, we would have gotten like a screener.
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Alan Miles penned this one, directed by the great Greg Beeman. Is the 23rd episode of the season. Picks right up where it left off. I guess if the rehearsal dinner was on the Friday night, that the wedding's on Sunday, so this kind of encompasses the whole weekend in Smallville and all the goings on. But I mean, literally picking up right where we left off with Clark down in the cellar. I mean, that not even. Of course, the previous. Maybe there was a previously on. I can't remember. Oh, I should find my tape. I know I've got this one on tape somewhere. That'd probably be a great one. But I don't remember a whole lot of previously ons at this point. We had to get way more serialized into the series before we started getting those. You
know, usually season finales had really good previously on stuff.
And most of do the DVDs have the previously ons?
Yeah.
They do, don't they? Yeah. So this one may not have had one. If nothing else, I'd love to go back and watch the commercials for the ads this time because I love. There's nothing more I love than old Smallville bumpers.
I don't want to interrupt you, Derek, but we did miss out on mentioning. We talked about Dr. Walden and everything, and we missed out on really commenting on one of the most BA Lionel moments I think in all of Smallville. There's so many times where Lionel just has the upper hand, but they're like. Send it when they're examining the remains, the charred remains of Walden, and he's like, "Send it to me." And what? The hand. Like he just says it like, "You idiot!" the hand.
Yeah.
And it's so, I just remember that being so creepy and so intense. And it's like, well, Craig, on your site, I mean, he was the MB, you know, he was the magnificent bastard. And
Yeah.
and I forever referred to Lionel Luthor as the magnificent bastard because of Krypton Sight. And in that moment, that's one of those moments that just, he is that. He is the OG MB because the hand.
Yeah.
I love Glover's delivery of that. I felt everything I was supposed to feel when he says that, the repulsion, the intrigue, and everything. And then, of course, that's what brings about the kryptonite key that we'll talk about in a minute.
But we do pick up right where we let you. Thank you for mentioning that, Steve, because that is a good moment that I had in my notes and I obviously just glossed over. But we see the ship do some cool things here. It turns into the talking egg, as I remember calling it back in the day, the Kryptonian, Fabergé egg.
We talk about what we were feeling when we watched this. I will never not feel Mork from Orc vibes when that moment takes place.
That's bad.
Nanu, my son.
I mean, he really does some cooler stuff here that he does in the Fortress, morphing into the planet Earth and then showing the holograms of the Kents and Lana fading away and everything.
Yeah.
But
I really liked that these two episodes had a lot of good character interactions as well, including some we didn't often get to see.
It's funny.
And I think that's another thing that Helen added, because I know there's a scene where, was it Helen talking to Lana?
Yeah, at the Talon.
And it's just like, we didn't get to see a lot of females being friends.
No.
I mean, sometimes they'd hang out, but not really.
Well, and you've got so much animosity between Lana and Chloe this season, especially in the fact that they're living under one roof and the Clark of it all. I'll tell you something that'll probably blow both of your minds if you've never thought about it. This episode, and only one other episode in the entire series, do Pete and Lionel interact.
Yes.
And that's it.
I didn't think about that, but when I'm watching, I'm like, we didn't get a lot of Pete and Lionel, and that was great too. Because
Pete going down into the cave and distracting Lionel long enough for Clark to zip in and out and get the kryptonite key. But Pete and Lionel do not interact again until the Stride Gum episode, until Hero. That's the only other time they interact in the series.
Which is weird considering their history.
Right. And technically, I don't even really think they interact because Pete walks in the kitchen. Now, bear with me because this is another one I've probably watched twice ever, Hero.
Yeah.
Pete, but I do remember this because it was funny to me. Pete walks in the Kent Farm kitchen as Lionel is walking out, and they cross paths, and Pete's like, I guess a lot's changed around here. And I think that's it. I think those are the only two times those characters interact, which, as you said, Greg, with the history being there of Lionel buying Ross Cream
Corn Factory.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about Helen, because obviously she quote unquote comes around after Lex's betrayal in this one, and ultimately we find out why as we get into season 3. Was that a huge change for you in that character, that she would take Lionel up and betray Lex and leave him for dead and escape when she's been pretty much nothing but nice? I mean, she was a nice change of pace in this season from our usual 2-bit characters that we would get, or returning art characters. I mean, the fact that she kept Clark's secret, that she was so good to Jonathan throughout the season, and then ultimately all it took was Lex betraying her for her to basically leave him for dead.
Well, I feel like, one, there could have been a lot going on with their character that we just didn't see.
Yeah.
But also, I feel whenever somebody's just a guest star, they can bend their storylines however they want to get to a chosen endpoint. So, yeah, I wasn't that surprised. I think one thing that did surprise me about, now that we're talking about Exodus, is I remember when season 2 was airing, thinking the whole Martha is pregnant storyline was pretty stupid. Not to mention that Annette was probably like 50 at the time, which didn't really make much sense to me. But
well, she was, magically healed, so she
easy Don Lemon, women to pass the
but no, but like but watching the episode now, knowing what ends up happening and the guilt and the sadness that Clark feels at the end of the episode, it makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
Like, it was like very well planned, because originally the plan was for Martha to run for mayor or something in season 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was her secret originally that Ryan was hinting at.
Interesting.
But
I did not remember.
Yeah,
that.
I thought this kind of worked with the whole, I feel like the whole thing might have been a Jor-El manipulation to make Clark feel bad and do the red kryptonite. But so many things came together in this episode too, like the Kryptonian stuff that Clark is still learning, feeling like an outsider now that he knows that he's an alien, and the Red K, because like I thought there was a good parallel with real life where somebody's having a bad time, they resort to drugs or alcohol to feel better, and that's exactly what Clark did with the ring, and I thought that was really cool.
The mandate I remember at the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, and it really didn't recover until Superman Returns came into production, and it was I guess it was a result of Flyby or whatever the McG was going to be at the time, because that film Clark was going to be Krypton did not explode. Clark was sent to Earth, and it happens the way you would think, and then the third act reveal is Krypton was still there. But
wasn't that where they had the reveal that Lex was
half Kryptonian or something? I can't even remember. I've forgotten more than I remember about that. But as a result, there wasn't much that Smallville was allowed to do with not really even Kryptonian tech, but Kryptonian aesthetic, I guess is the word I would choose. As a result, we got the Kawachi Caves, and we got the really all we got was the alphabet, the language, because the other stuff, the ship and the key, was stuff we hadn't really seen before. And my memory is until Returns went into production, it wasn't that we really, other than the Williams theme, we didn't really get to lean into the Donner aesthetic with the crystals and the fortress and stuff like that. And that's kind of why we've got this archaic stuff early on in the series that later became the Superman mythos that we know and love. And I want to use this as a jumping off point to go into something else, because I feel like a lot of people. I'm just going to take over here. Deal with it. I feel like some of that stuff will live on way past. I don't mean this morbidly, but we'll live on way past Donner. We call it Donna era things. We call the. I think people refer to the Williams theme as Donner era. They refer to the Crystal Fortress in that shape and design as Donner era, even though there's stuff like that to build from the comics as well. And I feel like it's more. It has survived so long and been utilized in so many different incarnations now. I mean, from the Lego movie, the Lego Batman movie, and the Lego films, to commercials, to advertising, too much anything. One of the reasons they were able to use the Williams theme is it was so cheap, and they didn't realize how cheap it was. Steve, I think you talked about this a few weeks ago. If I'm on the show, if I'm not mistaken, that they found out that the music, that the score for Superman the movie was so cheap for them to use.
I didn't know. No, that's new information to me.
Maybe
I didn't know that. I thought it was expensive, and that's why we didn't get it too often.
No, maybe it was Brian Q. Miller and I went to the orchestra concert at LA Philharmonic, and maybe he was telling me this. I can't remember when we were watching the film, but that I feel like this stuff has survived the era it was intended for, And when you've got stuff like, I know Returns is a pseudo sequel, of course, and Smallville is a love letter to all things Superman, and of course, so much of it leans.
Even Black Adam used the Superman theme,
right? And so much leans into it that I feel like, I will not be surprised sitting in the theater next year, and we may find out before then, if much like the way John Ottman used the Returns score, if James Gunn is using the Superman theme for the new Superman film. I would not be shocked, because I feel that it no longer embodies Christopher Reeve, it no longer embodies the Richard Donner or the Salkinds or anything like that, or even this logo. I feel like it's surpassed all of that and is now Superman. In a way that the James Bond theme is it doesn't matter which actor is portraying James Bond. And I know that's a different. Don't tie me to that, because I'm not comparing it and contrasting in the exact same way. But much in that same manner, it's tied to that character that you can utilize it and make it for that. Because if you ask somebody on the street, if you played, and I'm not doing this to down on Zack Snyder or anything like that, but if you played the Williams theme to any Joe Blow on the street, 9 times out of 10 they're going to go, that's Superman. And
the other person will go, is that Star Wars?
Yeah, well, yeah, or is that E.T.? Yeah, but I mean, they may not say John Williams, they may not say Christopher Reeve or Richard Donner, but they're going to say that's Superman, because it's been used so many times throughout the last several decades, from Seinfeld to commercials to anything. And if you played them the Zimmer theme, they're not going to know that. I mean, it's great. I love the percussion. I loved Flight. I think it's a great score for that film and embodies that version of that character, but it's not something that I feel like is as iconic or will have as lasting a legacy. Clearly, now that we've dissolved that franchise, it's not going to. But, I feel like these things that became a Kryptonian aesthetic or a Superman aesthetic for Smallville are more than just Reeve or Donner, and I won't be surprised if we see that next summer. I wouldn't be surprised if the logo for the film is the classic Superman 3-dimensional, curvature, big S and smaller out, a newer version of that. But to see what Gunn has said about his love for Superman the movie and the character and stuff like that, I would not be shocked. How do you feel about that, the two of you, about it transcending what has been in the past and what will come in the future?
Well, first, I was going to say, even Lois and Clark used the Donner aesthetic for the Kryptonians.
Right.
Jor-El and Lara. Well, maybe not. Yeah, I guess we did see Lara.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even remember anymore. But as far as the music goes, like, I remember when I was yes, I do agree with you about the new Superman movie, but also when I'm watching these episodes, I'm remembering 3 out of the last 5 or 6 episodes of Smallville season 2 used Donner music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe in the back of my head, I was thinking, is this the new paradigm for the show? Like, are they just going to keep leaning into Superman? But the other thing I thought was kind of interesting, when you were talking about the cost and everything, I feel like before the finale aired, Brian and Kelly were like, I don't think we're going to have the Williams theme in the finale. And then we did.
Which would have been a huge misstep.
Oh, you know what? I might be mistaken. Maybe it was the Arrowverse.
Using Williams. And then ultimately they did as well. When Ralph was flying off, yeah.
Yeah, wait. I love the score when Ralph and Hecklin are fighting, and it's like their theme songs are fighting too.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. And they needed Tom to fly up there and be like, "Somebody save me!"
He would have had to have flown. I'm going to be surprised. I'll be surprised if Williams' score makes it into the new Superman. I think that I agree with you. I feel like it's transcended all these things, and it is Superman. But I don't think James Gunn agrees with you, and I don't think Warner Brothers agrees with you.
Well, get him on the phone.
Right. Well, like your point, and honestly, your point about James Bond, again, I understand that we're not dealing in the same universe with this new Superman, but it really is essentially the same concept. We're recasting the same character, and using him, and so the theme should be able to transfer, especially one that is so iconic. And I think that Smallville, in a lot of ways, was the beginning of that for a lot of what has come since Smallville, because you look at Lois and Clark, they had their own Superman theme, when you look at the animated series, it had its own little Superman theme that it did. Now, the Ruby Spears cartoon back in the 80s, they opened up with the John Williams theme, But when you get to Smallville, it's almost like, I think because there was the no flights, no tights thing, that they wanted this to be as realistic as possible, that when the Reeve episode, when Rosetta aired, and they had and I heard when Clark walks into his office, you can hear that fortress motif, that is the Krypton music, but it's in a minor key a little bit, and you can hear that. And I'm like, oh my God, I knew from the moment he walked in, I'm like, they're using Williams music. And for it to build to that trumpet fanfare really quickly and then cut out to commercial, to me, I'm like, it'll never get better on TV than this at all. And so at the end of Calling, when he goes down and it's there and you're still getting it a little bit here in the beginning of Exodus, I think the paradigm shifted then. And it's like, I think that Alan Miles were sticking their flag in the sand saying, this is Superman's music. This is his theme. Now we're not going to use none of Batman for Batman, but this, more than the Elfman theme is for Batman, more than that was for Batman for years and years, this is the Superman theme. And I think had Singer and Ottman leaned more heavily into that, and I know initially they weren't going to lean very heavily into it at all. They were going to give us a motif, and what they discovered is that it wasn't as outdated as they thought it would sound, that it did work, and so they leaned heavier into even some more themes. Dude, that Krypton theme at the beginning of Superman Returns, with the choir swelling up in the background, is amazing. And then to use the whole opening theme for the credits, and I know a lot of people say, and then the rest of the movie happened. Well, shut up.
Yeah.
The Smallville stuff, when he's remembering, that's one of my favorite pieces of music from all of the Superman story.
And that's what I love. That's what I'm saying. Ottoman takes the blueprint of Williams.
Right.
I hate to say that because other fans have used that term into something else. But he takes the groundwork of Williams and makes a completely brand new score and weaves it in and out. But I think that was a discovery for Singer and Ottman both. I think that because I remember hearing or reading interviews prior to that, like you may hear the theme once or twice, but we don't want to use it because the style is still a little outdated from what movie scores are today. And then to see how heavily they did lean into it. Gosh, what's the scene where when he steps into the elevator to change? They do the whole little bit from the helicopter scene. They do that whole build up, and that's when I really got stoked about Superman Returns, was when they showed that clip online. And, this was in the days of QuickTime, and it would take that was an iTunes exclusive, buddy.
Real player.
And I don't know if James Gunn, if anyone would do it, it would be James Gunn. I think.
I agree.
But I just don't know that I don't know if the studio will let him, or if he really feels like.
But he is the studio now. That's what I'm saying. Like, if he wanted to do it, there's nobody really to stop him from doing it unless John Williams said no.
That's true. The power dynamic in the DC universe has shifted.
It's shifted. Yeah,
that's true. I forgot about that.
What do you think, Craig? Could you see it being utilized
in the new Superman movie? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even if it's just in a flashback or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, we're talking about how, like, Bryan Singer had it re-recorded by, was it John Ottman, you said?
Right.
Yeah. Smallville got Mark Snow and Louis Feber. Did I say his name? Febre. Yes. They did their own take on it. I have a videotape somewhere of Rosetta unfinished, and it just has the Williams theme in it.
Nice.
Like, it's the temporary track.
Nice.
And I think that's kind of amazing too.
That's cool. That's
That is
super
cool.
I mean, I don't think I have a working VCR to look at it, but
Well, send it my way. I'll send it my way.
Yeah,
I'll get.
if I see you in a couple weeks or something, maybe I'll just have to.
I
Bring
can't
it with me.
imagine why that would happen, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I want to be there. What's happening in a couple of weeks?
We'll talk about it in a minute. And so, the other things I remember from Exodus, of course, Exodus to me, I think about Moses, God talking to Moses in the burning bush, and a lot of that coming out of this with the whole Jor-El talking.
It's
to
the burning
Clark.
barn in this case.
The burning barn, correct?
Which also, I'm sorry, which also is kind of a Superman reference. Since God talked to Moses.
Yes, exactly. Let me tell you, boys and girls,
whoever gets this interview is going to have the greatest one-on-one since God talked to Moses.
One of the best Perry White quotes throughout the history of Perry White. Love Jackie Cooper. Of course, one of the most memorable things from this episode that comes into play again in season 3 is the branding, is the Kryptonian S on his chest. I think about the fantastic blooper where Sam goes to touch it on Tom's chest and ow! It scares the bejesus out of him.
That's funny.
What was the whole? It was an 8 instead of an S, or I mean, sideways infinity. However you want to say it, it. Obviously, that S is for hope, and the 8 is for the House of El, I guess. But that was a little bit of a departure too, and I think strange for some of us who didn't know what was going on.
Well, I mean, the Kryptonian alphabet was being used at that point. That is the S in the Kryptonian alphabet, so that was kind of the aesthetic choice there. I hate to keep
but Jor-El starts with a J.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were allowed to use the typical S. It's like, if you look at the unaired version of the Smallville pilot, the crow on the... No, actually, I don't even think the crow was on the permission slip. I think it was just like an S with a shield behind it.
Right. It was more like an old school, like a Superman #1.
The closest we get is the shop class.
Yeah, the paperweight in shop class.
The metal shop class there.
Yeah.
That he makes is when he tries to reinvent when he tells the shop teacher he's gonna it felt it needed an update until they get to again their whole returns in production and they're able to really start utilizing it. And of course a lot of people think because it is the return suit or a variation of the return suit toward the end that the Smallville S is the returns S, and that is not the case. Smallville had its own S. It is different and distinct from the returns.
It's like a white chalk drawing on a black.
Well, yeah, but I mean the actual.
No, but
the actual.
Yeah, but also like you had the moment, skipping ahead where Jonathan hands him the suit. That's not Ralph's suit. No. I don't think that's Ralph's logo either.
No, it's not. And of course, the cape is different material and everything. But this brand, this beacon on his chest almost because Jor-El controls it and starts to burn him whenever the longer he gets into disobeying, and we see that as we get into Cal and Metropolis in season 3 with Exile and Phoenix that he's that he's being affected by it, and whenever he's affected by it, he of course we have that great moment in Exile when he goes into the phone booth to call Jonathan and Martha, and because he's taking the ring off when he's being hurt by it, and then hangs up because
he does the shirt rip.
He does the shirt rip in the phone booth. He did how amazing that was at the time.
And that remains in the opening titles for the rest of the series. But that they probably did this for an excuse to get Tom's shirt off.
Oh, it was
sure,
the WB.
yeah.
We didn't. Yeah, I mean, we didn't really need a whole lot of excuses back then. It was.
Yeah, but yeah,
you were contractually obligated. Lose it. Take it off.
Yeah, pretty much.
Drop it.
Well, Tom does say that he even early on, he would push back on shirtless scenes and be like, "No, why am I doing this? Why does the shirt need to be off here?" Like, it wouldn't be just an arbitrary thing. Obviously, they're doing it to get his shirt off, but like, the fact
they're doing it for the women folk to turn in and the men folk. Let's not.
But there is a reason that that he's being branded. He's not going to be branded on his hand.
Yeah.
The chest is there because it calls back to the suit. It's a big portion of his body because he's a broad-chested Joker, So
Absolutely.
I'm sure Chloe knows somewhere he could get branded. But,
anyway,
There we are
so
again. We went back to that well, ladies
yeah,
and
we
gentlemen.
did. I do remember being fascinated at the time, and of course, it's something that happens and goes away quickly. Steve, you mentioned this a few minutes ago with the kryptonite key. The idea that Lionel, 3D scanning wasn't a big thing then, but 3D printed himself a key made out of kryptonite, 0.01% tar. Or what have you from Superman 3. But that Clark decides the best way to destroy the ship and get rid of the voice is to insert the kryptonite key into the ship. And he's right. It does do it. But at what cost? We talked about Martha losing the baby as a result, and which is the guilt of this is what turns Clark into wanting the red kryptonite ring. Searching the torch for the red kryptonite ring, X-ray vision would have been much faster. I feel like, instead of just pulling out drawers and emptying them, looking for.
But he was so frantic, he might not even thought about it.
This is true. Well, there's it could call back. There's a moment earlier in the episode where Lionel talks about how anger makes you weak. And I don't know if that was meant to be a call for that or not, but it could be considered a nod, or it could be just considered a random happenstance.
I mean, it was a cool scene, and it's a lot cheaper to film. Tom.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. We've used a good portion of the budget this episode. We blew the ship up.
Oh yeah.
We've propelled Clark up in the corner. We've branded him.
Made an egg.
We've got we made a Fabergé egg, and ultimately we've got to crash a plane. So we used
and put a crater in the ground.
And not to mention, I mean, penultimates were also often known for not having a whole lot of effects because we saved up money for the finale. We used a lot of money in Calling. Between Walden,
also Beeman was directing, and he always went over budget.
Absolutely, he did.
I mean, and rightfully so. Like I remember when Salvation happened, they got kind of annoyed because he was told only 30 visual effects shots, and there were like 10 times as many. But
I mean, we had to do something to get the doomsday out of our mouths at that point. I mean, you gotta go for a better finale.
Yeah, I agree. We also have not discussed. This is the episode where Clark and Lana are under the oak tree.
Oh yeah.
You remember the picnic under the oak tree campaign to have them go back? It's on that DVD feature we're on.
Yeah, that's true. It is.
Yeah.
I forgot about
and then that's when Alan Miles, they're like, Operation Oak Tree, and start laughing.
Oh, that's funny.
Fans wanted them to be back under the oak tree, or
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
it's like a callback, or
guess it was their romantic place.
It was their place.
Where they both have their own horses.
The tree that launched 1,000 ships.
1,000 origami.
Yeah, cranes.
Yeah,
Yeah, or just the
was
one.
that them too?
Just the one.
Was that the Klana people too?
What, the origami?
Yeah,
Was that Klana?
I think so.
Was it Klana or was it
I
Schlark?
can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Oh, I've forgotten now.
The Clark people just complained online.
They just went. They just
I think the Klana people did more romantical type stuff. Then the Clovis people were just psychotic.
Are we Clovis or Schlois?
Well, Schlois is the best way to say it.
It's at the back of the thing. Clovis.
Clovis, yeah.
And then there's Schlalimedia.
The what now?
Schlalimedia. That's what I would call Schlali.
Was that what
Chloe and Oliver?
Chloe and Oliver was?
Yeah.
That was a weird
fun
one.
times.
That was a weird one. Just put that bed right over the bloodstain. It's fine. Don't worry about that.
But one thing I was also just thinking about is how did the Kents fix that big old crater in their farm?
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone by the next one. You know, I wish, having visited there now, I remembered to look at things like that. Not that obviously that's there, but knowing where, like the storm door, that's not really there. That's not a real thing. That's just something they built. And then the cellar itself was on a set. But the structure for the door going down, and the hole that they dug, which is obviously what that hole then becomes, they just dug it bigger. Is, you know, I wish I had thought to look at places where that stuff happened, and I didn't.
There are when Clark comes walking up out of that hole
and trips,
the trip, but then the standing up with the confusion and the fear. Like, Welling did a great job in that moment.
He did.
I think of all of the things that were going through his heart and mind, it would be going through Clark's heart and mind. Like, he just registered so well without saying a word. And, you know, and then of course he tries to take off and he can't, you know, but then I guess he gets it all back. But the whole, it's just, it's all intense, but that was the climax of the whole thing. And then everything that's intense beyond that is just the emotional blow after emotional blow after emotional blow that comes with the conversation with Jonathan at the hospital. You know, like,
which I'm so glad you said that, because I do want to agree. Before I move on to this point, I do want to say you were exactly right, and I feel like, you know, and even Tom talks about how stiff he was. He didn't know what he was doing in season 1, but I really feel like from Rosetta on, he becomes more and more, so much more relaxed, and then by the time Erica shows up in season 4, he's just so himself around her. He's so Clark around her. He's so much himself and so much more relaxed, and does such a good job. Compare that coming up out of a crater to the coming up out of the crater at season 6, the beginning of season 6 when he gets back from the Phantom Zone. Oh, like when he gets back from he just walks up out of that crater and looks around, is like, I'm back. Yeah,
you know?
Superman, bitches.
I was wondering if there was a parallel between the coming up from destruction in this and the coming up from destruction at the beginning of season 2. And the notion that tornado was an Earth-born situation, whereas this was an alien-born situation.
I didn't think about that. That's good,
interesting parallel as well.
Steve, you mentioned the hospital scene where Jonathan finds out they've lost the baby. Look, I know it's the WB. I know it's early 2000s television, and we can't expect too much. And I know that the bedside manner among the medical practice in Smallville is great. But Jonathan says, she comes out and says, Martha's got a mild concussion. She's going to be fine. And Jonathan goes, and the baby? And that doctor goes, I'm sorry. And just walks out.
You're right. I noticed that too.
It's terrible. She just goes, I'm sorry. And then just walks right past.
Well, you can't linger too much on that. You know, you got to give him.
There's nothing we could do.
Right.
I'll come in and talk to you in a few minutes. You know, if you want to go be with her now, I'll come in and talk to you both in a few minutes. There's none of that. It's just, I'm sorry. Lunch.
I'm sorry. On to the next.
If you'll excuse me, I have a hernia to repair. Just walks. Doctor. And just walks between Jonathan and Clark off like it's nothing. Like, jeez. Of all the things to not have some tact about, you've really, you nailed it, ma'am.
And how is our baby? I'm sorry.
If you'll excuse me.
Emmy award-winning performance right there.
I have a conference to attend. So this
I'm sorry. My office may be getting ransacked by someone right now.
It seems to be going around.
It's been happening.
There's a lot of blood being taken from the hospital. Oh, man, I remember this grueling wait between seasons. God, it seemed to get harder every year. Come to once we got between 3 and 4, and again, you talked about how the soap opera-ness of people being poisoned and houses blowing up, and are they dead or are they alive, and Lionel the Magnificent Bastard controlling everything, and then Lois showing up, and then we get to the end of season 4 with the meteor strike and the extended episode going into 5, and then my God, 5 to 6 with Lex now possessed by Zod and Clark in the Phantom Zone, and it kept building. But you're right, Steve. This is really where it was like we can't back down now. Like, we've done this epic.
Right. We need more than a tornado save.
Right.
To lead it in.
We have to have more than that. And
then there's Doomsday.
And then there's Doomsday.
And then there's Doomsday.
Yeah.
Which, I guess we talked about it on Shoe way back then. I understood what they were going for and why they had to do it that way. And you really set up for down the road for him to have to fight Doomsday and die. Doomsday's buried under a mountain, for crying out loud. But just getting to that point was very awkward through that season. I remember season 8 being like kind of a throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. But
I mean, they didn't. I mean, Craig, you can attest to this. They didn't know what was going to happen. The fact that we got an 8 was, everybody was signed on for 7 seasons, and then the fact that we got an 8 was a miracle in some ways.
Well, I mean, when they were about to start shooting Doomsday, Tom had not signed for seasons 9 and 10 yet.
Right.
So, like, they delayed shooting, and then
and then
you and I have talked about how the several times they tried to do a little Justice League pilot type thing.
Yeah,
they were going to do one after Doomsday also, and you said they did one after Odyssey, I believe.
I always felt like, especially in doing Shoe, and I know I talked about this on the show off and on at the time. 5 seasons, yes, and 5 phenomenal seasons on the WB. A new network launch, yes, we've got to bring some stuff over, and we've got to launch with some branding, and so yes, we get a new season on the CW. Anything after 6, I felt like we were lucky to get.
Yeah.
More often than not.
Yeah.
What's really funny is I remember Comic-Con before season 9. I think Brian and Kelly are like, do y'all want a 10th season? And I remember at the time I was kind of cringing, like they're really pushing their luck. But I think Tom had signed for 2 seasons, so they already knew.
They knew what was coming. Yeah.
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 But I also think, though, that like the thing that Doomsday lacked that this and the others had is Doomsday was more akin to like that first season finale where it's big action, big set piece. In season 1, the big set piece is a tornado. I get it, but still, it's a bigger, more updated kind of set piece thing, and it leans into the comics a little bit. But the thing that it lacked was the emotional gut punch of that conversation between Jonathan had never talked to Clark that way.
No,
that we get in season 2. Like
not of his own mind.
Right. Yes, yeah. Right, exactly. And so you're dealing, and like you said, Craig, Clark's dealing with grief and guilt and the fear of what Jor-El wants him to do by putting on the ring, basically taking some form of mind-altering drug, is the way it could best be said, and riding off in the sunset. See, at the end of season 3, it's the emotional gut punch of we've gone through all of this turmoil this entire season, and now Chloe's dead, Lex is poisoned, Clark has disappeared, Jonathan's comatose, all this crazy stuff. And then season 4, it's like awesome because Clark's up in the snoo, but you're on an emotional high now because that, as a Superman fan, what's happening when he throws that crystal, even though we don't see it until the opening of season 5. So there's an emotional connection that's coming on. And God, season 5.
Yeah.
Dang, Clark floating away in the Phantom Zone, Zod standing over a burning metropolis. The light. I watched that clip the other day, for some reason, and as it pulls back from the earth and all the lights are going out, Derek, all I could think was finale.
Because
that's what they're calling
the name
it.
of the episode. Somebody better bring a pizza.
Somebody better bring a pizza.
That is the same animation used for the teaser for the series finale, pulling out of Metropolis over Earth.
But I think that was kind of the key to this and the premieres and so everything between. A lot of times for this, you had your mid-season stuff that would go on and kind of hold you, but these never. To me, what I remember more is how I felt, not in the moment I was thinking, what will happen? but I just know that I felt like, my God, everything's ruined. How are they going to fix this? And that's really kind of what makes, I thought, these finales so good. And that's why it was so to me, so soap opera. And I think I read somewhere one time, probably on Krypton's site, where they talked about we like to paint ourselves into a corner. And, so the challenge is, how do we come back from this?
What's the Al quote? I don't know. We'll figure that out in June or July.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll figure that out when we go back to the writer's room.
There were two things about what you just brought up that I just thought of. I think mid-season, the best mid-season finale was Bride going into Legion.
Yeah.
Season, was that 8 or not?
Season 8? Yeah, Doomsday.
8, yeah.
Doomsday.
Yeah, like I thought that was like the best
the Cloverfield
Doomsday
episode.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the other thing that I think didn't even really cross my mind until Steve was just talking was Jonathan, when he was so angry with Clark. You also have to realize what internally was in Jonathan's head at that time. I mean, this nurse was just completely dismissive. No, but before, more than that, though, like, all this time, Jonathan, thought he didn't have to compete with Jor-El. He's like, I'm Clark's dad.
Yeah.
And then now Jor-El is back in the picture, and it's like, oh, am I not really? So I'm sure he had some insecurity there, too.
Well, I mean, I just lost a child, and I may be losing the son I've known for the last 16 years. Yeah, to his heritage, and how to cope with that. Man,
and he almost lost Martha.
Man, this is one of my favorite episodes of Shoe I think ever done. It's good.
And of course, Chloe's all like, "Thank you, Mr. Luther."
Thank you, Mr. Luther.
I'm drinking underage now.
Yes. Look at me, big girl. This is one of my favorite episodes of Shoe we've ever done. Some good conversation out of that one. 2 of my favorite episodes, and closing out season 2 with the 2 of you feels just right. Like I said, reading that summer between May of 2003 and getting into season 3 was a lot of time was spent on your website, Craig. So thank you.
Absolutely,
thank you for that.
Absolutely.
If you ever feel like you've wasted any part of your life, fear not, because there's a lot of us who devoted so much time.
Hey, Craig, if you've ever feel like you've wasted any part of your life, just know this is all your fault.
This
all my fault.
So many things,
no.
including
I'm like, Clark,
this
all my
podcast.
fault.
Yeah.
You could blame Geek Out Loud for Shoe. You could blame With Brian Austin Green for Shoe.
Yeah, Brian Austin Green is going to be pissed at you.
Oldish. There wouldn't be Oldish if it wasn't.
That's true.
The domino effect you have had, sir, cannot be maintained.
That's absolutely true. There would be no Oldish right now without.
No. I wouldn't have been up until 4 o'clock this morning editing.
Yeah.
You're the Phil Coulson.
Except for I'm not dead.
Smallville podcast universe.
Oh, man.
Hey, it's interesting because I recorded on Talkville the other week. The episode's coming out in like 3 weeks from whenever we're recording this. And one of the questions Michael asked me is like, have you ever wanted to just give up and shut the site down? I'm like, no. Because I love that it's still there. I know some of the older stuff is a little harder to find sometimes, especially with Google being weird. But like, I love that, it was almost like a historical document now.
Absolutely.
Like you go to like the web archive and you can see like what the spoilers were before season 3, what we knew and what we didn't know.
I think
we were allowed to get away with posting so much more than
I think the last episode Steve was on, he and I were talking about you had like the episode grids. You would take one of the official images and make like a narrow sliver of it with the episode
I think
title.
the Shoe Twitter put one of those up.
Yeah, not too long ago. And like the dopamine hit, the serotonin I would get when there was a new one.
Yeah. And that's really why when you think about it, like Derek's able to do this or used to be able to do, like at least seasons 1 through 5, just rattle off the number.
Absolutely. That's why I could do it, because I could see those in my head. Like, I remember, I think Arrival was a little different. Like, you did I was
trying to match the new season 5 credits.
Yeah, and I
never could find the font, so that's why I didn't.
I could remember being like, oh, he changed it.
And then I just went back.
And this is before we were friendly. Like, I think maybe we had exchanged emails at that point or something, but like, I didn't know you. I was just like, that's Craig from the
we would have
Krypton
met
site.
before, because we met at Glover. I think it was the second time I did the walk.
Yeah, but that wasn't
This time
until
was right after Shattered. So season 4 we must have met.
No, that was 06 when I went.
That wasn't the year Glover did the baseball game, though, was it?
No.
I think it was like later.
No.
But
yeah, 06 was the year I went to
walks
Baltimore.
were fun to do, too.
And that was the first time we actually met face to face. Like, I think we had shared emails, obviously, before that. But this was, pre-shoe and stuff like that. But Steve's right. Like, I would not have retained those episode titles without those episode name grabs that still, like, you talked about one getting posted. Tim posted one on the other day and sent it to me, and I was like, oh my God, like the just, it's like smelling something from smell, and like you're like, I remember that from like 20 years ago. It's that exact kind of
There's also, people need to know Krypton's site is still there. It's still up and running.
Mm-hmm. As are the forums.
Craig's still doing it. But Craig's also doing what he always did, and I want to commend you on this. I've got it pulled up right now, and you've got a great front page with a lot of different information. You've got what's trending. You've got the latest news over here. But what I don't see is a lot of clickbaity type headlines.
No.
Like, there's nothing. I
try not to. Sometimes I do.
Well, I understand, but there's nothing overly sensationalized in any of these titles. Like, the most clickbaity thing I see is Tom Welling hope for Bruce Wayne on Smallville, and it's like, okay.
But that's what he says. That's what the article
says. It's not, here's what Tom Welling had to say about Bruce Wayne on Smallville.
Right. And so I just want to say that in a world of, well, you mentioned things, we've got this covered, and Emergency Awesome and different places like that are all about the clickbait. I'm just glad that you're staying the course. And I know that's a harder course to stay in entertainment news and discussion nowadays, but I just commend you and say, keep it up, man. Keep it rolling.
Well, you have to remember also, like, when Krypton site, first was a thing, yes, we had like the Rumorville page and we had the Smallville spoilers page.
Rumorville.
And I would post the episode descriptions on a separate page so people didn't get spoiled. But all the news was just on one page back then. And that doesn't happen on websites anymore. No. I remember the first time a website I went to, I think it was Zap to It, like they went from all the articles on one page to separate pages for everything. And now you kind of have to, just for SEO and all that. But yeah, I try not to. I always liked when I could have like a clever pun in a article title. Like, there was Smallville, I think it was a trading card set. And some of the trading cards had a piece of Clark's jeans. And I think my headline was like, get a hold of Tom Welling's pants.
Nice.
Or something like that. Just to
get your hands on Tom Welling's pants.
I got the piece of his shirt there.
That is such a good still of that costume.
It really is, isn't it? For a costume that was not utilized enough. The red leather jacket.
I have never seen that still before.
Yeah.
I have seen that.
I've got a few of
I'm
these.
surprised that got approved, because apparently Tom only had... Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently Tom only had a certain number of photos that were, like, approved. And that's why, like, you would see the same ones everywhere.
I actually got two of those. One's from the actual jacket. And then one's from the blue shirt.
Oh, wow.
Underneath. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got none of that stuff.
Somebody gave
I think
me.
I have the first card set that they did somewhere.
This is
my mess. Oh, I even see your Daily Planet jacket. That was what, season 9?
5.
5.
Season 5. That's probably my favorite
5
one,
was
though.
the big puffy coat.
7 was the big puffy coat.
You're correct.
That's the actual red jacket there. The actual
wow.
Blur Clark read. I
That's
realized
so
this is
cool.
video. And
Yeah, I remember when they sent me that the big puffy jacket. I think I actually picked it up at the production office because I live right by there.
yeah,
And I remember thinking to myself, when am I ever going to wear this?
in Los
And then
Angeles.
2 weeks later, I was going to set for like my seasons 6 and 7 books.
yeah,
Something.
perfect time to wear it in Vancouver.
You know, another thing that I was just thinking about when we were talking about the summer between seasons 2 and 3 is back then we did not get a DVD set like right after the season.
Right.
In fact, I don't think season 2 came out on DVD until season 4 was starting because they were like a year behind
Yep.
for a while
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, I had some friends who I had a friend who had gone off to college in another and didn't have WB in the town where she went to
Oh,
college.
wow.
So she'd come home on the weekends, and I would have recorded Smallville. And this was during season 2. I would have recorded Smallville for her, and she'd take the tape, bring me the tape I gave her the week prior back. And so I was in my office one day, and my buddy's wife was there, and I said, "Here, take this to him." It was a tape with like 3 or 4 episodes, not in any order because they were all getting recorded out of order. And they were all like season 2 eps. I'm like, I don't know if you guys will dig it or not, but just take it and maybe, you know, when the new season hits, we can watch together or whatever. The next thing I know, I'm out to dinner with them on a Friday night. They're like, "Now tell us how this all started. What is this?" Like they were in on just a couple of episodes of season 2. And I forget when those actually came out on DVD, but it was huge for us to be able to finally sit down for them to sit down and catch up. But we watched because was it season 3 when it moved to Wednesday nights?
Yes, I believe so.
And so we had church on Wednesday nights. I worked at a church and we had church on Wednesday nights. And so I would record it, go home, get the tape, come back to their house, and we would watch it together week after week after week, you know. And that's when I started. It took 2 years, but I finally had friends to watch Smallville with.
Well, you know, I remember, so like until I had moved to California, I lived in the Baltimore market for, you know, like a WB station, and they would sometimes preempt for basketball. Which just like killed me. But in one case, I knew they were going to preempt it. So I remember I emailed the Smallville office. I was like, "Can you guys get me a tape?" Because it's not like you could download it online or watch it on iTunes right after. Right. Nope, you had to wait until it was rerun. At least they did reruns back then. I feel like that's a problem with TV now. But I also remember there was a Canadian DVD of the pilot Metamorphosis as like a movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure Derek's got that back there.
I remember that.
But you had to order it from a company called VideoFlix. And I had an affiliate link on my site. And I sold so many of those things that they were going to try not to pay me.
Oh, wow.
They did pay me probably not what I was owed, but I'm pretty sure it sold in the thousands just through the Krypton site.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's crazy.
I do want to mention at the time of this recording, less than a month away into the Salute to Smallville convention in New Jersey. If you were going, you need to head over to Creation Entertainment's website at creationent.com. That is October 5th and 6th at the Hilton Parsippany in Troy Hills, New Jersey. Tom, Michael, Kristen, Erica, who else? Craig, John Glover, Laura Vandervoort, and Aaron Ashmore will all be in attendance for panels, photo ops, autographs. Going to be some extra stuff going on too. Sounds like some trivia and some other things. So if you were going,
and they're doing Smallville nights,
and Tom and Michael are doing
that's an extra cost.
Smallville nights, yeah, an additional cost for that on that Saturday night, I believe.
And if you haven't done Smallville nights before, it's a fun experience.
You've been twice, right?
It's like Tom and Michael like have you like do scenes from the show with them sometimes even. It's a lot of fun. And then like the last time I went, when they did their live Talkville show here in LA, they had Smallville nights for that too. And everybody in the audience had to come up and deliver the line, You were right about me all along, Mr. Kent. I am the villain of the story.
Nice.
So that was fun, hearing all the different ways people delivered it. Somebody delivered it in Spanish.
Oh.
You know?
Steve would have done it like George Lucas. Steve?
You were right about me all along, Mr. Kent. I am the villain.
Excellent. Not to put you on the spot. Good job.
Thank you.
So if
And
you
now do it as Crazy Cooter. break one. I'm as the villain all along.
You boys got
Crazy
to
Cooter, come on,
realize.
you got ears on.
You boys got to realize. I was the villain all along.
I should have had you do it as Sheriff Adams. Mr. Kent.
Mr. Kent, you were right all along. I am the villain of this story.
Bravo.
That's a great latte.
Good job. This is a great kryptonite ring. So, if you were going to head to New Jersey, tell them Shu sent you over on the Twitter. We've been posting about it. Tim, of course, does a phenomenal job with our social media, and he's been posting a lot about that. So, looking forward to that event. Like I said, in just a few weeks in New Jersey. Craig, of course, you can find KryptonSite.com, as we've mentioned many times in this episode, as well as KSiteTV.com. He does not just cover Smallville, a show that's been off for 20 years. Of course, he for fans of the show, he covers also Superman and Lois, but a plethora of other things as well, and you'll want to check those out. He's also going to be on Talkville with Tom and Michael here, you said, 3 weeks from now? From this
Probably.
week?
I think they just did Solitude, and I'm on for Fanatic.
So
I think that's 3 weeks from now.
Coming up soon. So
2 weeks from now, actually. So I think it would be possibly September 24th, but I could be wrong.
And may I just say, sir, not to give you any bigger ego than we already have in this episode, 5 seasons past due.
Yeah, right?
On there. I don't know why it's taken them so long to reach out to you, but I'm glad that they finally have come to their senses, because you should be a part of a rotating the thing where they bring you back every few episodes to discuss, because of your knowledge of the series,
I think we all should be.
which exceeds their knowledge of the series.
I just remember the episode of Talkville where they're like, is Perry White important?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, just a little bit.
Well, I remember Steve telling me about the one where they were like, this is the first time we've seen the ship, and it was like it's literally the first thing you see in the pilot. But okay.
That was a flying pine cone.
That's different.
But there was a whole scene in the pilot where Jonathan and Clark go down into the cellar.
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, they stand outside the ship. The kids don't just fall out of the sky, Martha. I mean, they're standing right in front of it the whole time. Whatever. It's neither here nor there. Of course, you can find us online, SmallvillePodcast.com. We're on Instagram and TikTok at Smallville Podcast, and on Twitter at Shu Smallville. And you can email us anytime, mail at SmallvillePodcast.com. Craig, thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic discussion. I love it. Can't wait to have you back again soon. Steve, good talking to you.
always Smallville.
Steve, surpassing 300 episodes over on his podcast, Geek Out Loud, the official podcast of GeekOutOnline.com.
But we're not celebrating yet.
But he's not celebrating yet. That's his story, and he's sticking to it.
Hey, is October 7th that premiere date for Superman and Lois?
Yes. I've seen the first 3 episodes of the new season.
Shut up, man. I'm really looking forward to it.
We will see you next time when we will be getting into our Season 3 discussion as Smallville marches on with Starkville's House of L 19 years later, almost 20 years later. And we'll be discussing the first 2 episodes of the 3rd season, Exile and Phoenix. Until then, we will see you next time.